Hi, I'm Bob Blair, and I'm thrilled to be back at the Commodore. In case anybody's wondering, this is called a Weissenborn style guitar. It's a kind of acoustic Hawaiian guitar. And they were made in the 1910s and 1920s, and then largely forgotten about as amplification came along and as dobros with the resonator cone that made them loud happened. And then kind of around the 1970s, 1980s, people started discovering the wonderful things you could do with them in terms of modern music, and some modern luthiers started building Weissenborn style guitars. And this one was built by a dear friend of mine from Louisiana who lives in southeast Texas named Carol Benoit. And he's a Cajun fellow, and he calls it his Cajunborn. Here's a song about Darcy Farrow. Where the Walker runs down to the Carson Valley Plains, there lived a maiden, Darcy Pharaoh was her name, the daughter of old Dundee and a fair one was she, and the sweetest flower that bloomed over the range. Her voice was sweet as a sugar candy, her touch was as soft as a bed of goose down, her eyes shone bright like the pretty lights that shine in the night out of Yarrington town. Now she was courted by young Vandermeer, and quite handsome was he, as I hear. He brought her silver rings and lacy things, and they promised to wed before the snow began to fall. Here comes the sad part. But her pony stumbled, she did fall. Her dying touched the hearts of us one and all. Dandy, in his pain, he put a bullet through his brain. And they buried them together as the snow began to fall. Sing of Darcy Farrow, where the Truckee runs through. They sing of her beauty in Virginia City too. At dusky sundown, to her name they drink around, and to young Vandy whose love was true. Where the Walker runs down to the Carson Valley Plain, there lived a maiden, Darcy Pharaoh was her name, the daughter of old Dundee and a fair one was she, and the sweetest flower that bloomed over the range. Oh, bless your hearts, thank you very much. Yeah, that's the sad tale of Darcy Farrow, and it was actually a made-up story. Two guys named Steve England and Tom Campbell wrote that. And the Darcy was actually Steve's sister, who had some incident with her pony and sprained her ankle. So it turned into a much darker story. But I thought while I was playing on the Weissenborn here, I'd kill a couple of birds with one stone. One is that we lost Ian Tyson not that long ago, and as a songwriter, as a performer, it's just an inspiration to many, including me. He was a giant, and he had a whole lot to do with the kind of music I started playing when I was in my teens. And I've got a real obscure Ian Tyson song. I think it's a real nice song. It's called Sam Bonnifield's Saloon, and it's about a bar in Dawson City back in the day, and there actually was a character named Sam Bonnifield. But it's a very obscure song, and the story that I like to tell about this song is that I'd gone down to the Texas Steel Guitar Show in Dallas, where I go pretty much every year, and I now get to perform on the main stage and on some side stages every year. But I was fairly new to doing that, and I got to the hotel where the show was, and I walked into the display room that Carol Benoit, the builder of this instrument, had, and there was one of my dobro heroes, one of the most influential dobro players ever, Mike Aldridge, was sitting there talking to Carol Benoit, and Mike was fooling around on one of these, and I hadn't met Mike yet, and so I walk in, and Carol Benoit says, "Bob, you got here finally," and then he says, "Mike, this is that guy I was telling you about." And so Aldrich says, "Well, have at her," and hands me the instrument. And so I didn't know what to do, but I always figure a good song will get you out of trouble. And so this is what I played for Mike. Champagne with a hot coffee, whiskey with our tea, husky dogs howling at the moon. And if I had $1 million, well, I'd trade it all to be with my pals down at Sam Bonifield's Saloon. With the kings of El Dorado and Dawson's dancing queens, singing out our favorite dance hall tunes. Midnight sun ablazing in a town that never sleeps, with my pals down at Sam Bonifield's Saloon. Thank you, Sam Bonnifield Saloon. Well, I switched back to a regular 6-string guitar here, and this is special. This is the first gig for this guitar. Some months ago I decided it was just wrong that I didn't have a Martin D28 because they're such an iconic guitar, and so many of my heroes use them, and they have a special thing that they do. And so I got this, and I'm real happy with it. So this is kind of its baptism. There's a story I always have to tell when I do this song. It's a Tom Russell song, and I first heard it. I heard Tom doing it live at the Diamond in Toronto, and when I got to the chorus, nobody in the room had heard it. A big crowd. Tom was opening for Ian Tyson, and it was like the whole room levitated. It was just such a good song. It became a real important song to me when my oldest sister was ill and didn't have long to live. I'd go visit her, and I'd play songs for her on my guitar, because that's something I could do, and she always wanted to hear this one again and again. But about 10 or 12 years ago, I found out that I'd missed a gig that I didn't know I had, and that was troubling to me. But the way it came about was in my own old hometown, there was a friend of mine who I always said was the only preacher I could ever tolerate. He preached in this little gospel church, and we used to, fix cars together, or try to, and things. And he was a really fun and interesting guy, and I don't think I don't think the people in his church all approved of some of the hippies that he hung out with. Anyway, I found out that my dear friend had passed away, and I was a long way from Lethbridge, Alberta. I was on the West Coast with one of my kids, and I wasn't able to be there for the funeral, and I wasn't sure that I'd be really welcome at the funeral anyway, which was really stupid of me. Of course I would have been. But so I didn't go to his funeral, and about a year later, I got a message on my answering machine, or my voicemail, I can't remember, and from Sister Barbara, his wife. Now, Sister Barbara, she wasn't just Sister Barbara because everybody called the women sisters in the church that they were part of. It was because she actually was a nun in a convent in Medicine Hat, and my friend wooed her away from the nunhood, or whatever it's called. And so Sister Barbara really was Sister Barbara at one point, and I thought that was an impressive thing. Anyway, she said that she'd found a letter that Bill had written to me. His name was Bill Roycroft. He was a heck of a guy. And she wanted to send it to me. And should she have my address? And so I immediately called back, left a message with my address, and then I started wondering what this message from the other side could be. And I was a little apprehensive about it, and I called some old friends and said, man, this thing's happening. I'm freaked out. And it turned out to be just this sort of wonderful letter. He knew he didn't have much time left, and it was kind of just a recollection of some of the fun things we'd done. And but he made a request, and the request was that I would do this song at his funeral. But he wanted me to change the last verse just a tiny bit, because there's a funeral in the song, and there's a line that goes, "A preacher in a cheap pine box," or something like that. Anyway, he wanted me to change the line, so it said, "A preacher in an old pine box," because he was the preacher in the pine box. Anyway, so my penance for missing the gig is that every time I have to do this song, I have to do it Bill's way, and I have to tell that story. And it's called Blue Wing. He had a blue wing tattooed on his shoulder. Well, it might have been a bluebird, I don't know. But he'd get stone drunk and talk about Alaska, salmon boats and 45 below. He said he got that blue wing up in Walla Walla, and his cellmate there was little Willie John. He was once a great blues singer, and Wing and Willie wrote up a song. He said, "It's dark in here, can't see the sky, but I look at this blue wing and I close my eyes, then I fly away beyond these walls, up above the clouds, where the rain don't fall on a poor man's dream." They paroled Blue Wing in August of 1963, and he moved north picking apples to the town of Wenatchee. Winter finally caught him in a rundown trailer park on the south side of Seattle, where the days grow gray and dark. Then he drank and he dreamt a vision of when the salmon still ran free. When his fathers crossed that wild old barren sea. When the land belonged to everyone, there were old songs yet to sing. Now it's narrowed down to a cheap hotel and a tattooed prison wing. Hey, it's dark in here, can't see the sky, but I look at this blue wing and I close my eyes. Then I fly away beyond these walls, up above the clouds, where the rain don't fall on a poor man's dream. Well, he drank his way to L.A., and that's where he died. No one knew his Christian name, and there was no one there to cry. But I dreamt there was a funeral, a preacher in an old pine box. Halfway through the sermon, Blue Wing began to talk. He said, it's dark in here, can't see the sky, but I look at this blue wing and I close my eyes. Then I fly away beyond these walls, up above the clouds, where the rain don't fall on poor man's street. Hey, hey, on poor man's street. Hey, hey, on poor man's street. Thank you very much. That's Blue Wing, and I don't know, to me it's just one of the best songs ever written. You know, I've been listening, it must be 35 years ago, close on to that when I first heard it, and I've never really gotten tired of it. I never got tired of doing it. It's just one of those songs.